Ladies and gentlemen, a real life case study of me flipping $1,766 into a roughly $31,100 contract is here. Now, I've never made a case study like this, but I think it's really important to go over these things every once in a while to get a really in-depth idea to how these deals work. Now guys, subscribe for more real land flipping strategies. I post generally every Tuesday and Friday, so if this kind of content interests you, definitely let me know in the comments and comment anything else that you want to see. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So guys, let's go over the agenda for the case study. So to start, we have purchasing the property, of course. I have 2 slides on due diligence. I have a slide on selling the property, location info, all of the drone pictures, the timeline, proof of documentation, so you guys know I'm not just capping, market strategy for disposition, profit breakdown, lessons learned, and our conclusion. So let's talk about the deal we made with the seller to originally purchase the land. Our purchase price was only $600. It was very cheap. The seller was just paying taxes and he had never even seen the property before. So these are the best type of people you want to be buying from, because since they don't really know anything about the property, they generally don't want that much for it. Now the tax assessed value was like $2,800, so I am kind of surprised he only wanted $600 for it, considering he knows what it was assessed for in taxes. But he was an older guy. He probably didn't really need the money and just saw that we wanted to buy the property that he was just spending his money paying taxes on. So he decided to jump on it and, you know, sell to us. Now, in terms of location, we've already done business in this area and we were very familiar with it because, again, we've been there in person, we've bought and sold. I've actually had a same property, the exact same size, on the same exact road just down the street. So this wasn't very new to us. Our due diligence was very quick and we knew it was a deal right away as soon as he said he wanted $600 for it. So the property was once his wife's dad's property. Once he died, his wife inherited it, as she was the only child. Then his wife died, which means the property went to him because they did not have any children. Now, because of the title issues, an affidavit was needed, and we decided to go through a title company because of that. Pretty much, we didn't want there to be any clouded title, just going through an attorney and drawing up a new deed and filing it at the county. We wanted to make sure there was title insurance involved, because there was a little bit of an issue. Now, according to the county, when we had called to ask about like the title history and what the improvement value was, because there was an improvement value on the county records, they said there was a structure on the property, but they didn't really know what it was. Now, like I said, we called because there was an improvement value added by the county. So this kind of leads me to due diligence. We definitely had to figure out what that was, because if it was like something stupid, it could definitely like hurt us selling it. But if it was something good, you know, it could definitely add value. Now, the best way to do due diligence is by visiting the property yourself, pretty much every situation. And that's exactly what we did. We visited the property on March 29th. Now, we already had a flight booked since we had other properties nearby to visit as well. So it kind of worked out perfectly. We had found the structure was an RV pad, an RV cover, and an old RV. Great news is people love these sort of like fixer-upper things on properties like old mobile homes, old RVs, even if they're in like horrible condition. People just love it for some reason. I don't know why. So yeah, like I said, it just kind of improves any interest that you will receive, you know, whenever you go to market the property. Again, the RV was not in working condition. I don't even think it could drive. It had some missing parts to it when we asked a neighbor about it. But, you know, the pad and cover were in good condition, so that helps. So this is due diligence part 2, pricing the property. Comping wasn't really necessary because, like I said, we've done business in the area before. We've sold, you know, pretty much the same parcel for the exact same size for $17,000 financing. And it was down the street. So that is a comp. Now the tricky part was now factoring in the old RV, the pad, and the cover. Now let me go over how we actually ended up selling the property on seller financing terms. The financing sale was $25,000. So we had a $2,000 down payment. So we were already in profit just with the down payment. And now we're just cash flowing at this point. So this contract adds up to roughly $31,100 after interest. Okay. So we had a 10% APY on the loan amount. And so the monthly payment was $485.61, beginning September 1st, 2025, ending September 1st, 2030. And there were no closing costs or realtor fees. Number one, because the buyer paid for all of the closing costs when we went to sell it at a title company. And we didn't have a realtor. We sold on Facebook Marketplace off market, so there was no realtor fees. Now, this is the first payment. This came in September. And then this is the one that came in October, or it might be vice versa. But yeah, September and October. These are the Zelle payments from this exact property. And of course, I'm going to cover the names for transparency. But yeah. All right, so location, Tyler County, Texas. So the details, it was 2 rural infill lots. Here's a picture of kind of what the property looks like. That's probably me right there. I think I'm taking a video or something. But yeah, this is like our marker to mark the borders of the property. And this was our second follow-up mail campaign to this area. And then he finally responded to us, the original seller who sold it to us. And the subdivision consists of roughly 100 parcels. So amenities, why the location is attractive. It's not the worst area. It's 2 hours away from Houston. I like being a little bit closer because there's a little bit more demand. But this area does have a state park pretty close by. And then it does have a little lake nearby as well where people can go fish. It's also near a city in Tyler County. It's only 10 minutes away. Again, it's a smaller city, but that does add a lot of value because people don't have to drive very far for like work and like to get groceries and stuff. So these are just a couple drone shots that we took. Now, I'll cover kind of how we marketed this, but we actually only marketed one property at a time. So this is just the original property, and you can see the RV cover is right here. And it's obviously very overgrown. But yeah, so this is just this property as well. And we ended up selling them together, but generally we like to market individually. So these are like some exact pictures that we put on Facebook Marketplace. So here's a little timeline of what happened. So it was under contract 3-21-25. We officially closed on the property May 2nd, 2025. So it was maybe a little over a month, closer to a month and a half. And the reason it took so long, this title company, we learned, it's kind of slow. And on top of that, there was a little bit of a title issue. So, it took a little bit of extra time to get the affidavit. Now, when something takes 2.5 months to sell, so if it takes that long, that's probably the most I would have gotten for it. If it sold a lot faster than that, that generally means I probably could have got a little bit more out of the property. So we officially sold it 8-21-25. That is kind of a long close. It was an entire month when I went through the same title company I went to buy it with, and I had like the title commitment and everything. So that is really long to sell, to be honest. It should have sold in probably 2 weeks, which is the only reason why the process was a lot longer than it should have been. But yeah, guys, the entire process was 153 days, and I have proof incoming. So this was the original purchase agreement. Now, legal description. I'm going to block pretty much all of this information out just because it is confidential. But yeah, this is pretty much the purchase agreement that I used. And then this is where we all signed 3-21-25. And then we use Signwell. Signwell is like an e-signing platform where you can sign on there and then send it to the title company, and they will, accept that signature. It's a lot faster than mail. So this is what we always use. Now, in terms of closing on the property, we use Alamo Title Company. And then right here, you can see I'm not going to give away all the information because that is kind of confidential. But here, it is in Woodville, Texas, 75979. And you'll see that this is exactly the same on the other documents when I show the documents to sell. So here, $600 for the property. And this was a settlement statement. So it closed on May 2nd. Now, right here, after closing costs, we paid $1,766.40. So the purchase price is not how much the entire transaction is going to cost, because there's a lot of closing fees. Like, of course, the title company is going to choose to give out title insurance and help you actually close the property. That includes like escrow and everything. So this was all we spent on the property. Now, this is when we went to sell. So this is my LLC, and sometimes we buy things in our personal names and we transfer it to our LLC. So that's why on here it is our LLC name, and before it was our personal name. But keep in mind, I have a little note right here explaining why it's $1,950 for the down payment. You guys heard me say I got $2,000 down, so I did get $2,000 down. Generally, I charge a $50 fee to actually send a purchase agreement. This is kind of to like vet people on Facebook that are serious, because a lot of people aren't serious and they waste your time. So I charge $50 to kind of vet the person that I'm sending a purchase agreement to, so I don't waste my time. And then if they do waste my time, at least I get $50, right? So this was a purchase agreement that I sent. Of course, it comes out of the purchase price as well, so it should be $25,000 and $2,000. So I hope that makes sense. Again, this is our purchase agreement, $485.61 a month for 60 months. This is when it starts. This is when it ends. 10% APY. And right here, you'll notice we had the buyer pay for all of the closing costs. So like I said, we didn't pay for closing costs at all. So this is how it was signed, and it was signed on Signwell. So guys, I did just blur some stuff out for transparency, but you know, you can see the city right here. So what we're going to go over is we're going to look at this. So this is what we had on the purchase agreement. And of course, they give us $1,950 down. So the loan amount is the $23,000 right here. Now on this next page, you're going to see that we got this much at closing in hand, like we agreed upon. And they paid a little bit more than $1,950 because they paid for all the closing costs, remember. So I generally don't pay for closing costs. And yeah, that's pretty much that in terms of the documentations for buying and selling. Now let's talk about our marketing strategy for disposition. So our goal was to sell individually. So guys, when you are selling two lots together or separate, you got to take into account that you almost always get more money selling the properties individually. Since this is an area we've done business in before, we're not worried about doing that, because the only problem with it is that you have to find two buyers for the property. Now, we advertised the property on Facebook Marketplace and we had no realtor to help us. We visited the property in person to get high quality drone pictures, mark the property boundaries like in that picture that you saw, and put down our for sale sign. And we also offered 3 different ways to close depending on if the buyer wanted to save money and not close with the title company. Now, there is a lot of value in this, because telling a buyer off market that there's multiple ways to close and we don't pay for closing costs does help in terms of selling it. Why? Especially because if you're financing, a lot of people don't have money to pay for closing costs. So if I offer that we can go with the title company, do it ourselves, or go with the real estate attorney, which is almost the same as the title company, it's just a little bit cheaper. They have, you know, some options. Now, if they want to go get title insurance, that's fine. They have to pay for it though, because we can do it ourselves. So I tell people generally for financing, it's going to be around $1,500-$1,600. Kind of just depends on the property. Now for a real estate attorney, our real estate attorney charges about $1,000 for documentation preparation, and like escrow fees and everything. And if we do it ourselves, I also charge it. That's kind of like a service, so I charge them like $250. So I give them a couple options. So in terms of selling individually, you get more out of it because your price per acre goes up as the acreage goes down. I hope that makes sense. But essentially, what that means is like you're gonna pay the premium just for owning the land. So generally, you can sell 2 lots for more selling individually. That's the reason like why subdividing is so profitable as well, if you guys know what that is. But that's just kind of how it works. And again, I'm not scared to do that. The biggest problem with that is you have to find 2 buyers. Now, that's not really a problem because we've done business in this area before and we know that people will buy in the area. Now, the reason we accepted the offer for someone to buy both of them was because they pretty much gave us what we would have sold them for individually. So it just makes sense to go with them. Now, in terms of a profit breakdown, again, our total investment was $1,766.40, and the total contract value is around $31,100. So our return on investment is a 17.6x, which is insane. Of course, it's going to get paid out over time, but I also always have the option to go sell the contract to someone who buys seller financing contracts and get maybe 75% of the contract price right then and there. Now, again, there's no realtor fees or closing costs, so this is our entire investment. You can add like $100 in mailing costs if you want to. I mean, maybe, yeah, I probably should add that, but I mean, you guys kind of get the point. That's, $100. And anyway, just a couple side notes. The down payment itself already puts us in profit and covers our original investment and a little bit more. Now we are just cash flowing $485.61 per month for the next 5 years or 60 months. So of course, this is a major help in covering anyone's living expenses. You know what I mean? If you live in a roommate, that might even cover your entire rent for the next 60 months. And of course, if the buyer ever stops paying, I will just foreclose on the property and repeat the process. So if that happened, I'll end up making more money. And I already know I can sell it for that amount, so I'll just do that again. So lessons learned, I don't really have that many lessons learned, to be honest. This was like a pretty easy deal for me because I was familiar with the area. But one thing I did learn was this specific title company takes a really long time. That was kind of annoying, so I don't like using them that much anymore. Also, I would prefer to buy closer to the nearest major city, being Houston, just because I got a lot of people telling me it was a little too far away for them. So I just keep that in mind. I like doing outreach a little bit closer to Houston. Now, old RVs also catch a lot of attention. That's something that I learned. I've bought properties with like old mobile homes, but not really old RVs on them before. Now, this isn't really something that I learned necessarily from here, but I'll just add it in there. But it's just to keep following up with the subdivision because it always does us good when we go to sell. Now, another lesson is that if you do outreach for long enough, you'll just get lucky, to put it simply. That was an amazing deal. He only wanted $600 for it. And imagine like there wasn't any title issues. It would have been closer. If there wasn't any title issues, I would have used a real estate attorney, and that would have costed me $400 instead of like, $1,100 at the title company. So my total investment would have been closer to $1,000. But yes, I mean, sometimes guys, you just get lucky. So, you just have to keep doing outreach and eventually you get lucky. Another thing is timing is everything. And I added this in here. I need to tell a little story for background, but the seller actually a long time ago got a letter from one of the neighbors. And I know this because one of the neighbors actually reached out to buy it from us because he wanted to expand his property. He said he had mailed the original owner a long time ago. I guess just at that time, he wasn't ready to sell because he didn't respond back to him. So timing is kind of everything. And that's why, if you do outreach for long enough, sometimes you'll just get lucky in a timing aspect as well. But yeah, like if you wanted to sell years ago, you probably would have sold to the neighbor for that same price and the neighbor would have got a deal. But, timing's everything, so I did. And I mean, that's pretty much the end of the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed, this case study. I don't really do case studies. I'll probably have to do more depending on if you guys like it. But I think it's really important to do deep dives on deals that I do, just so you guys can get a full understanding for kind of how the whole process went, how our due diligence was. This was a super easy due diligence, so there's not a ton to comment on there. But in the future, I'll definitely have some where I had a lot of due diligence to do before I actually went and purchased the property. So with that being said, guys, if you had any questions, feel free to comment or DM me on Instagram. You'll see it at the bottom of the screen, all of my socials. So you guys can do that as well. And yeah, like the video if you liked the video, and make sure you guys subscribe. I post every Tuesdays and Fridays generally, so keep an eye out for the next video. I hope you guys have a nice rest of your day, and peace out.